So back then in the 90s, the PNP administration decided that they couldn't watch so many people lost their money. How many people knew that over 500,000 Jamaicans got their money back, every cent back? How many people?
Yeah, man, nobody lost any money because the taxpayers upped it up. It pushed the debt to GDP ratio up by 40%. Yet Omar Davies was still able to get the debt to GDP ratio down from 252% in 1989 to 115% in 2007. That is the largest reduction in debt to GDP in the history of Jamaica. Yet nobody don't want to talk about that and make him the villain.
I want to talk a little bit about FINSAC Ralston, because I interviewed Dr. Omar Davis last year, and he told me that a draft report from the FINSAC inquiry was sent to the government when that inquiry was put in.
Yeah, man.
For review. The Jamaica Labour Party spent over $150 million of taxpayers' money for us to investigate the FINSAC debacle. Why is it we have not seen that report published to the people?
That's a good question for the Prime Minister and Dr. Nigel Clark.
Ralston, people like...
And also a good question for the former Minister Audley Shaw, who was very vociferous about investigating the matter.
Let me ask you a question, Ralston. Is it that this JLP administration are hiding things that would implicate members of the Jamaica Labour Party why they don't release the FINSAC report?
Well, that I would say would be a reasonable assumption, because, as I said, the former Finance Minister Audley Shaw was very vocal about investigating the matter. So it is kind of strange that, I mean, after spending $150 million, we get no report, and the former Finance Minister Clark said, "Boy, we just put it on the archives and for the university to study."
And who want to search it and study it can search it and study it.
Yeah, because they know that nobody is going to waste any time on that.
There was a loan to a Prime Minister, Ralston.
Yep.
That was not paid back because he said he forget the loan. Was that a part of the bank's problem back in the late 80s, early 90s?
No, that was part of the problem in 1996 when Central National Bank went down. That money was borrowed from Central National Bank, which was run by Don Crawford. Yeah. So, the crisis started with Blaze Trust and Merchant Bank in 1994, and then Central National went down with about $6 billion for the Bank of Jamaica. So
which bank did Mr. Siaga borrow the money from?
Central National Bank, $30 million US.
So, hold on. Then why would you think of Jamaican?
No, man, US dollar, man. They were using it to build the place called La Carinosa, Enchanted Gardens in St. Ann.
In Ocherius? Hold on.
Yeah, man.
Portland people no come to the front of the line, let me tell you something. Every Portlander come to the front of the line, let me tell you something. Ralston, you said in 1996, Mr. Siaga borrowed $30 million US. From which bank?
Central National Bank, which was run by Don Crawford. No, he never borrowed in 1996. The bank went down in 1996. He borrowed it while he was Prime Minister.
Right, so he borrowed $30 million US while he was Prime Minister from Central National Bank.
To build Enchanted Gardens in Ocherius.
To build Enchanted Garden in Ocherius. And that was one of the reasons why they took cruise ship from Port Antonio to go to Ocherius so that their business, Enchanted Gardens, could flourish. Portland people no come here. And then, what did Mr. Siaga say about the loan, Ralston?
Boy, he said, boy, I just forgot it. We never remember it.
Take a look at my body. Want to
get, so you borrow $30 million US. Hey, Raleigh, is there anybody in the government now who used to work for Mr. Siaga then?
Yeah, man, the Prime Minister used to work with him, man.
Hey, tell her. What you say?
Yeah, man, the Prime Minister used to work with him.
You mean in 1996?
Yeah,
1995?
Yeah, man. Prime Minister used to work with him, man.
So you're saying in 1994, 1995, 1996, somewhere thereabout,
Yeah,
the
man.
present Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, used to work for Mr. Siaga?
Yeah, man.
As what? What was his position?
Well, he was like an account executive in the office. Yeah, because remember, Mr. Siaga was his mentor. Yeah, so he would have known about all of those things.
Tell her. 30 million US dollars.
Yeah, man.
And say you forget about it. So things like those would come up in the FINSAC inquiry.
Yeah, man, of course, that's a part of the whole thing because Central National Bank was the second institution to go down. And they went down with $6 billion from the Bank of Jamaica because the Bank of Jamaica was providing liquidity support to them.
And then the JLP, the Prime Minister himself, loved to talk about FINSAC that caused Jamaica how much percent of GDP we had to pay out?
40%, $140 billion, 40% of GDP.
$140 billion.
And for the benefit of your listeners, that means after FINSAC took all of the bad loans and bad assets and sell them, that was the amount of money that the taxpayers had to put up.
$140 billion.
Yep.
Me hear some argument about the former finance minister that he had some problem too. Him did have some problem too?
Well, that's one interesting thing. So the real question is, why was he so vociferous about the inquiry and into FINSAC, and then all of a sudden we get no report?
I wonder if he never remember saying had issues in it too. I wonder if he never remember. Come on, everybody. Tell her. Because, you see, you have some people, that when you hear them talk something, just look at them because they're talking about themselves. I hear the Prime Minister say, him no make promise where him can't keep. And any promise him make where him can't keep, him come back, come tell you.
Okay.
And then we can list a myriad term limit for Prime Minister.
Job descriptions.
Set election date.
First 100 days. Yeah, man.
Let's go back to FINSAC. I don't done with FINSAC yet. Because FINSAC is one of the things that they are saying that mess up the country. But as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Omar Davis told me on this platform that over 500,000 people were saved. They keep talking about a lot of people went crazy because FINSAC took their business, took their house. And then the Prime Minister basically said that Mark Golding and Peter Bunting benefited from FINSAC. Explain to my listeners, Ralston, how businessmen could have benefited from FINSAC.
Well, I don't know how Mark Golding and Peter Bunting benefited from FINSAC. I knew that then Finance Minister Hardley made some comments about them. They took him to court and he lost the case and he was supposed to pay them some money, and I think them just said so. They're not going to be able to afford it, so just forgot about it.
Hold on. I never hear that one yet. That one I knew. I want to remember this. Tell me that again, Ralston.
Yeah, man. He had accused them of some dealings in terms of FINSAC, and they took him to court and it came to nothing in relation to him. And he was ordered to pay them some money and them just never bothered with it.
Them just low him.
Yeah, because they never think him can afford it. So the way businessmen could get benefit from FINSAC is that when the assets were being sold by FINSAC,
yes,
the people got some discounted prices because there was nobody to buy the assets.
Right, so they were selling out the asset cheap.
Yep, because when we want to explain to the people, FINSAC was created in order to take the bad assets from the banks who had government money because they get support from BOJ and sell them in order to get back the money. And there was nobody willing to buy them. So, because most of the people who have money in Jamaica were FINSAC and them can't create the problem.
So anybody who had some money back then could have get cheap property to buy, cheap house, cheap business. Because
that is how Mr. Leeton got NCB to buy. That is how the Trinidadians and got Guardian. That is how we get Sagicor. Yeah, that is it.
Yeah, because hold on
Because
there.
some of the people have to come from foreign come buy.
How much him they get NCB for again? $2?
$4 billion around there, sir.
It's a little bit of money.
Yeah, because NCB had about 26 billion in bad debt.
Oh.
Yep.
So business people. Hold on for me, Ralston. Make I see if I hold on.